Hello and welcome to episode number 135 of the Board Game Barrage podcast. It's always, the most grand numbers when I host an episode. 135, that's like something, Has anyone ever lived to be 135? Because I will.
I would guess not, but you plan to?
You can't speak yet. These are my co-hosts, Mark and Neelan.
Are we allowed to speak now?
Well, this is a very social episode, so
That's right.
I would say just be your social butterfly self, Mark.
Return of the Bob. We're bobbing it back up.
Excuse me?
We're bobbing.
You understand how a host... It's like if you came out on the
kinda
show, I'm David Letterman, you come out and you start introducing the topics,
Okay, so who's David Letterman's... Who's the band leader?
I don't know. I don't know
All right,
any
so
of the
don't
late
say
night
anything.
hosts. Stop it. Stop it.
God.
Stop it.
Paul Schaefer.
Stop it.
Hi, I'm Neelan.
Today, on episode 135 of the Board Game Barrage podcast, we are bringing back our friend Bob, BGB Bob, the man who gets us to argue about the best social deduction board games of all time. And when we say best, we mean best at social deduction and not best overall, but that's a nuance that we'll argue about later. But before... Oh, wait, I forgot the slogan!
That's my thing, to not say the
Forgot
slogan.
the slogan. And this slogan is Shut Up and Sit Down approved as it appeared in one of their recent videos. Board Game Barrage is a podcast about board games, the latest hotness, and how to have fun with your friends, even when you're losing. Did that sound good, Mark, when I did that?
Great.
Thank you. But before we get to Bob,
Let's get...
Mark, do you preempt me at every
You
turn?
keep stopping.
Do you understand
I think you-
comedic timing? There's a start, there's a pause,
When I
the
see the-
people laugh. What are you doing?
When I see
Are
the-
we
the-
starting over? Do we need to...
The point guard is doesn't know how to dribble. He's just stuttering there.
Don't talk
I
about
gotta take
Scottie
the ball.
Pippen with me. I don't know anything about
Scottie
basketball.
Pippen wasn't a point guard. Jesus.
I don't know anything. Michael Jordan. I don't know. John Stockton.
All right, pass me the ball. Hurry up.
Well, I bring the heat as that point guard, the aforementioned point guard. Do they bring the heat in it like NBA Jam,
What?
when you get on fire,
Yeah.
near the end of the game?
Not near the end of the game. It's when you make 3 shots in a row. You ever played video games?
I would do that near the end of the game. So a game that I have always been interested in, based on the beautiful pictures of it I've seen online, is a Korean game, I believe, called Gemblo. And specifically, this version is called Gemblo Deluxe, because when you're going to buy Gemblo, you should buy the bigger version of Gemblo so that you look like an when you're carrying it in a park and having to walk a half a mile to your car. Gemblo is basically Blockus, but not. Blockus, but on an octagon. Is that a 6?
Hexagon.
Are you sure?
Octo is 8, like octopus.
So Gemblo plays 1 to 6 players. It is a game where everyone starts in a different corner, and you are building towards the middle, trying to use as many of your pieces as you can. Whereas in Blockus or Blockus, your pieces have to touch. In this game, your pieces cannot touch. They have to extend out on one of the vertices on the aforementioned octagon.
Hexagon.
Thank you, on the aforementioned hexagon. Except if another player is sort of rammed between that vertice, you cannot get through there. But the minor nuance there is that if you have one piece on one side of the vertice and then another piece on the other side, you still can sneak through that hole, fit that Gemblo into anything.
As they say.
As they say in the Laker family. That's the long and short of what you do in Gemblo. Everyone takes turns going around. You have beautiful pieces. You're playing them onto the board. It looks beautiful. We have a picture of this up on Instagram.com/BoardGameBarrage. I enjoyed very much my play of Gemblo. I now have a huge board that is in a aforementioned hexagon-shaped giant box that I'm unsure about keeping because of Blockus and Blockus, but I do like that it goes to 6 players. It worked wonderfully at 4 players. I had a great time playing it. It was the best game that we played in the park. Mark and Neelan, what did you think about Gemblo Deluxe?
I liked it. It seemed like a sort of game that you would, I don't know why this occurs to me, but a game that you would casually play while chatting, maybe over a cup of coffee or something. It's like an abstract game with simple rules that you could consider your move and take your turn, and it has a very classic feel in that way, even though the presentation is bright and shiny and lovely. And your edition struck me as sort of like a coffee table sort of thing, where you could just set it in the center of a table almost as like a decoration. It's really a pretty board, and the gems are nice and shiny and colorful. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It has a very, again, classic feel that I liked.
Yeah, a thing I appreciated about when we were playing it is that I very quickly realized that I had built myself into a corner, which kind of, it immediately gave me that feeling of like, oh, there is a way to have done this better. Like very quickly I was learning how to play Gemblow, and I think that's a sign of a good abstract game, is you feel yourself improving at it while you're in the middle of playing even your first game of it. I think that it was surprising to me how quickly constrained the board came. You kind of have these grand designs and big shapes in your library, and then you just don't have any room for them anywhere on the board. And yeah, like immediately thinking like, oh, I know where I would have used these differently if I had considered that earlier.
I loved how everyone with their first piece went towards the middle, and then with everyone's second piece, it was like a beeline towards someone else's territory, right. And it was like, whoa, like Mark, what are you doing there, bro? Like you're getting too close. And so that has a fun little element to it. Gemblow is one of those games that I see on Board Game Geek all the time, and it's not on my top tier of, oh, I must play that game, but it's always sitting right below that. And it just struck that it got in stock somewhere, and I was like, this is the time. I've wanted to try this game. We got Gemblow. We played Gemblow Deluxe. We've all been Gemblowed.
I felt blowed at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed you have to have a couple overarching strategies in your mind, but you also have to play the board and your opponents quite a bit. Like you may have a strategy to sort of spread out as much as you can, but you have to react to the way that your opponents have been laying their gems down. And so it just doesn't feel to me like you could like have a single idea of what you're going to do and opponents be damned, I'm going to do this and it's going to work or it's not. You have to really play the board and play your opponents, which I liked. Like every game would feel fresh and different, and you could counter whatever metagame had been maybe cropping up in previous games with your opponents.
That is Gemblow Deluxe. Neelan?
So we all played a couple of games of Quest by Don Eskridge on Tabletop Simulator the other day. This is a current Kickstarter, which should still be live by the time you're listening to this, assuming you're listening to this at a reasonable time. For those that don't know, Don Eskridge is the designer of The Resistance, which you all should know by now is my favorite board game of all time. So there was a lot of anticipation going into this for us. I think we're all excited whenever Don Eskridge comes up with something new. And the question on all of our minds is this The Resistance killer?
Has the father of the Resistance killed
right
his son, the Resistance?
His own son?
That's right.
So to set up a little bit about what Quest is and how it works, it's very much in the same quote-unquote universe of Resistance Avalon. So that is a Arthurian theme. It is designed to fit right into that theme, and it has very similar gameplay elements. It feels a little bit like, not necessarily a spiritual successor, but a Resistance spin-off. So what that means is at the start of the game, you are divided into two teams of the Resistance versus the evil players. The evil players generally know who each other are through a process of opening your eyes while everyone else's eyes are closed, but the good team don't know anything about anyone else at the table. Then a leader is chosen randomly. They pick without any voting. So this is one of the big changes from the Resistance. They just pick the team, presumably after a little bit of discussion, that will go on this quest, and then those people will submit either a success or fail card. Those cards are all shuffled together, and if one of those cards is a fail, then the evil team gets a point. Otherwise, the Resistance team gets a point. First to 3 points wins. Now, there are a few little rules, additions, and complications there. So far, so Resistance. One of the things that happens is you cannot be the leader twice in a game of Quest. So once you've been a leader previously, you must then choose a subsequent leader that cannot be someone that's previously been the leader. You also, at the time that you pick a team, get to magic someone so that they cannot put a fail in. So there's a little bit of like a who does the person I suspect the most, and then you would put a spell on them to stop them failing. But the complication to all of this is that there are roles. There are, unlike Resistance, a lot more hidden roles and little abilities that people have. So someone might be immune to the magic spell so that they don't have to put a fail in, even if they do get magic. Other people might have to put in a fail if they get magic, and they're on the good team, so that's bad. So there's a lot of like little sort of complications and wrinkles to the setup that are designed to introduce little moments of, oh my god, what does that mean? This person did something maybe that we didn't suspect. So what does that change about what we know about them down the line? The way that this all resolves ultimately is through a new system that is a little bit like the assassination in Avalon, but is called the Good's Last Chance. So this is flipped a little bit where Good gets to do this. If the evil team wins through getting to 3 points, then the good team collectively points at people at the table. They can all point 2 people. And if they've collectively found all of the evil people without making any mistakes, i.e. by accidentally pointing to a good person, then they get to steal the win from evil. So there's a fun little bit of everyone trying to figure out who the bad people are, regardless of how the quests are going. As you would want from this type of hidden information game, there are more considerations happening than just the best person for the mission at any given time. So what did you guys think of Quest?
I think the most important caveat is obviously playing social deduction games on Tabletop Simulator is not ideal. And figuring out a new social deduction game is hard because sometimes you can have a first game that just doesn't go right because someone doesn't know the rule or because a role isn't clear to everyone at the table. I would say that the design ethos for this seems really, really clear to me, which is there are people who complain that in Resistance all the voting takes too long, that it's not needed, it's just annoying, it always goes to the 5th vote. You know, this game was designed, what happens if we cut off the voting from Resistance, right? And then the next thing is we want everyone to have a role. We want everyone to do something weird. So similar to One Night Ultimate Werewolf, right? You just got roles and roles and roles and roles. When I think about social deduction games, there's sort of the advanced, super technical Avalon being a great example of metas developing and people playing these games hundreds and hundreds of times. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I think of games like Good Cop, Bad Cop, or these sort of more super beginner friendly games that create moments for people to sort of shout at each other and point, but don't seem to have as much depth to them. I think that Quest definitely skews towards that style of thing. And it is a hot take because I've played it on one night 3 times. I'd be interested in revisiting this once we have it in person, because I think social deduction works better there. But for my money, I think taking an experienced group of Resistance Avalon players and then saying, here, play Quest, I don't buy it. I don't think that that's going to work.
Yeah, and somebody said on the night we were playing it that perhaps if this game didn't have the Resistance lineage, the Resistance Avalon sort of like trappings, and we went to it not being aware of the lineage or the background, that maybe we wouldn't have gone in with such maybe high expectations or whatever, and maybe that would have colored the game differently. And I think that's true. And I think it's also very true that I would want to play this game in person, just because I think social deduction, at least for me, is something that fails or I have much more trouble with when I'm playing it over the computer. There's just something that's very much, in my opinion, lost when you play it that way. That said, and again, sort of to harken to Kellen's about the more gamery social deduction games versus the sort of more beginner-friendly, and how this one seems to lean more beginner-friendly. I think when it comes to social deduction, this is maybe a spoiler for my takes in the BGB Bob segment, but I feel like I like my social deduction games to be lighter, quicker, less like sussing out the mathematical permutations of what everybody said. And so this still feels a little bit too much like that. It also could have been the group we played with, but the social deduction games that I want to play are quicker, faster, and I think even though it's quicker than Resistance, it's not quick enough. It's sort of in a gray area that doesn't hit either side for me. Like, I feel like if I was going to play a more gamery social deduction game, it'd be something else. And if I was going to play a quicker one, it'd be something else. So when would I play this? And for me, I just don't know where it would hit. Again, I think I need to play it in person because of the social deduction thing, but didn't come away especially excited.
So where I am still intrigued by Quest is it straddles this weird line, right? Like you both said, it sort of pushes a little bit from Resistance towards One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is, for my money, a game I enjoy substantially less than the Resistance. So I don't think it was ever going to surpass Resistance just on that measure alone. That said, I think I personally found it more interesting, at least on a quick impression, than One Night, in a way that had me intrigued to want to play it. And I like One Night. It's saying I like it a lot less than Resistance isn't saying much when you were talking about my favorite game, right? It's still a game that I am intrigued by. Even if we didn't have the best first impression, I'm definitely still backing it, and I'm intrigued to see how different it is as an experience when we play it in person versus playing it over webcam. Like I think that is a hard evaluation to make given the context. I will say that the art for this game is beautiful. I believe it matches the Brazilian Coup edition that came out a couple of years ago. And it is also coming with a big box edition of Resistance Avalon included if you back Quest. So, I mean, it seems like a worthwhile proposition to me personally. So yeah, still interested to see how this plays in person when it eventually arrives. But that is all we have to say about Quest for now.
Let's move on, because we're friends, and this is a Social Friends episode, right?
Right.
So, in the middle segment, we tell you what's going on, what's the news, what's coming up. Over the weekend, we are going to be live streaming some board games with Capstone. Specifically, Neelan will be playing New York Zoo from Uwe Rosenberg on Sunday, the August of 16th.
Yes.
At what time?
At 1 p.m. Pacific time.
Well, how did you get that time, by the way?
I know. When I saw your time, I was like, man, I picked the right game here.
And Mark and I will be playing Renature, which is a new Kramer and Kiesling game.
That's right, yeah.
And we'll be playing that at 7 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday, the 16th of August.
What a great way to start your day.
Yeah, cup of coffee, cup of joe, and me beating up Mark at a game made by the same designer as El Grande and Azul, Renature. And then if you're bored of us, go back to bed and then wake up again and watch Neelan lose at the new Uwe Rosenberg game, New York Zoo.
We got to back our boy in that one.
Yeah, what's that
that's
all about?
true. Can we get in there in the chat and like say mean things to the other people
yes,
so they lose confidence?
I expect nothing less from both of you.
That's right.
Oh, this sounds fun now.
I agree.
I'm more excited for yours. No, but we would love your support. We'll be posting links to this in the Discord. We'll be tweeting out, putting it on Facebook. This is where you show up with like Team Mark signs, or you know what I mean? If this is in person, I don't know. Who could say what would happen?
I think you can just make Team Mark signs.
Where,
There's nothing wrong with that. Who's that
How will they hold them up?
With their hands. What do you mean how they hold
Well,
them?
they're holding their mouses. It's online, Mark.
One hand for mouse, one hand for sign, as the saying
What
goes.
about the keyboard?
They don't need that. Mice, you can do everything with mice. Mice nowadays, they're amazing.
All right. Today on the BG Bob, if you have not listened to one of these, people have written in, they demand more BG Bobs. This is where we use the Pub Meeple ranking engine to cover off our favorite games of a certain type of genre. We will argue in real time and we will vote. Once there are 2 votes locked in, we will move on. Each game will go head to head with each other game, and at the end we'll arrive at a definitive list. And that definitive list covers all the best social deduction games ever created.
Wait, before you go on, how do we lock in our votes, Kellen? For people who don't know. There's a phrase we have to say.
We use a phrase that came from a non-branding expert because it means the opposite of what you think
that
it
has
means.
taken the Discord by storm, I'll add.
Congratulations, you got 10 people.
That's all I need. That's all I need.
We say fire away to lock in our votes.
Because we're tanks. Tanks fire away.
Because we're tanks.
Branding.
And today we'll be covering social deduction games. I do think it's fair and helpful for newer listeners. Social deduction games are board games where you are trying to suss out the identity. Typically, there are teams involved, sometimes multiple smaller teams or sometimes just 2 bigger teams. And the goal of the game is traditionally around sort of sussing out whose role is what. There is sort of a spectrum of these games in terms of whether they lean into the deduction aspect with a lot of numbers and math and statistics, or more on the social side where you point at Mark and say, you are a liar, you horrible person.
I mean, Kellen says that anyway, but these games give him a reason to.
A spoiler alert, Blood on the Clock Tower is not in our Pub Meeple ranking engine.
It may one day be.
What are you talking about?
You can say.
You're going to get that thing and it's going to sit in your closet.
Yeah, almost
by
certainly.
itself.
That's the huge
Play
irony.
it with you.
It's actually never
We're
going to
not-
get played is the real.
We're your friends. We're your social circle. That's not happening.
That's right.
So, without further ado, why don't we jump right into the BG Bob best social deduction games of all time. When each game comes up for the first time, we will give you a quick intro to it, quick hit, but by the end, this is going to be rapid fire aways all up and down town. All right, with that, our first Lineup is in one corner we have The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31, and on the other side we have Time Bomb / Don't Mess with Cthulhu, which is the same game with two different themes. Who wants to cover The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31?
I'll cover it.
Yeah, go for it, Mark.
The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. Is that what it is? I hate these long.
Thing, Infection at Outpost 31, a ripoff of The Thing. Oh no, is this actually licensed?
This
Yeah,
is licensed.
yeah.
Can you license the word The Thing?
You're licensing like the
property.
art and the IP.
And I think actually
Was
the
that
phrase
Snow Mountain?
"the thing" is probably actually a trademark.
All right, I think we're digressing from
Copyright law.
the
aside.
rapid fire nature of the BG Bob.
So The Thing is a game where there are people who are humans and then people who are infected by the Thing. And there's a leader selected, and you're going on missions. And as in a lot of these sort of social deduction games, sort of like Battlestar Galactica, players are elected to contribute cards to a mission, and then the cards are shuffled up, and the players can succeed or fail in the missions based on whatever the requirements are. And there is a card draw aspect to the game where if you're on a mission, you may just not have the cards to succeed, so that, you know, when a mission has failed, there's an argument to be made like, oh, I just didn't have it, I couldn't have contributed, I just didn't have the cards. The twist in this game is that twice during this game, players can be infected. So again, like Battlestar Galactica, players who started off as human can become things as the game goes on, and it ends in a escape on a helicopter. If the human players can get onto the helicopter without any infected players being on the helicopter, they win. This is a game that I've played 3 times. Even though I'm aware that this type of game is a game that is very fragile based on how the players play and the rules and everything, it's been great every single time I've played it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. In general, I like my social deduction games, as I mentioned earlier, to be quicker. This is on the longer side, but we've had such great games of this in the past that I included it on my list because I just had a blast. Every game has had like big card flips and a lot of shouting and stuff like that, so I very much enjoy The Thing.
And then in the other corner, we have Don't Mess with Cthulhu / Time Bomb. This is a very, very simple social deduction game where you are split into 2 teams. You're handed 4 or 5 cards, depending on the player count, and everyone has to announce how many Cthulhus or how many parts of the bomb they have in their stack of cards. And there's a certain amount of bombs in the whole group, so when Mark goes, I've got 2, don't draw from my pile. And Nealon goes, I've got 3, don't draw from my pile. And I go, I've got 1, and that adds up to more bombs than we have in the entire game. We know that someone is lying. And then you quickly take turns in succession, just flipping over the top card of someone's pile. If you get a bomb or if you get a Cthulhu, the game ends and the bad guys win. Otherwise, you are slowly whittling down these decks, and then you're redealing those cards out. And once again, looking at how many you have and trying to persuade or dissuade someone from picking your pile. There are some special roles in the deluxe version of Don't Mess with Cthulhu. I know there are some variants and versions of Time Bomb. This is a very simple social deduction game that is very light and can also play in 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm just going to launch right into the argument, which is that The Thing is a 2-hour game where the best strategy is actually to pretend that you're not bad the entire game. And that's objectively a fact that you can look up on the BGG forum. Don't Mess with Cthulhu is
That sounds
actually
like try
fun.
harding.
And no, it doesn't.
That sounds
it's
like
literally
exactly
the best
the thing
way
you
to
don't
win.
want.
Do you understand what tryharding is?
Yeah,
No, you don't.
researching the best strategy is the epitome of tryharding.
I looked it up because it's so
Wow,
bad.
this used to
Okay,
be
so
something
you
we
looked
would
it up.
frown upon, Kellen.
That's right. What have you?
There
become?
is no question in my mind. Earlier we talked about highbrow and sort of lowbrow social deduction games. Don't Mess with Cthulhu / Time Bomb 100% is in the lightest corner of what this comes with. And it's so simple that you go, is this going to be fun? And the game starts and it inevitably is fun.
Yeah.
We played this at Gen Con outside of a bar while we were waiting to grab before dinner started, and it's just a fun time. The stakes are lower, but it's so much simpler that I do think this is a worthwhile game to pick up and one that I keep in my collection, and they keep releasing new different variants and versions, and I'm always looking at them to figure out if I should replace my copy with a different version of it.
I like Don't Mess with Cthulhu a lot. Like, it was very close to being on my submission list. The Thing was on my submission list. I think that of the games that are in the Battlestar replacement, as in Battlestar-like games that are attempting to be, it's closer to an hour and a half. Like, I don't think it ever runs like crazy long. I think that The Thing has flaws, certainly, and it definitely hews close to Resistance, but with cards, I'm with Mark. I very rarely have a bad game of this. Like, I've had
but
bad games.
literally the best thing to do as a bad player, right? Do you agree with this premise? The best thing for a bad player to do is to pretend they're good the entire game.
I mean, there are rules that make that a harder strategy that built into the game, which is literally if you do that, you are...
The problem is that it fails because people don't know that that's actually true. You start the game thinking I'm an evil player and therefore I'm going to play this way, but the more you play it, the more that you realize that that's actually not true. The game is actually broken. I believe the game is broken.
So here's
I don't even think you should...
If you do that, you are more likely to give the good team these detectors. It's a delicate like wire, right? Because if you explain all this up front, that's probably more explanation that you should have to do to people. And you're right, the game does rely on the premise that that will be enough information to stop people from doing that. I honestly don't think that the jury is necessarily out on saying that this is de facto the best way to play the game. I would believe it, but I've not play tested it enough to prove that out.
Yeah, this just feels like a disgusting first vote to me, to be honest. Like, I want to stop recording because, like, we're taking a game that's simple and fun, and you're picking an hour and a half long social deduction game that's barely social deduction and just is mechanisms thrown on mechanisms that is more presentation and theme over actual gameplay. And you're saying that, oh, yeah, we're going to choose that over that. You're out of your minds. Fire away. Don't mess with Cthulhu.
I think Don't Mess with Cthulhu is going to get its due. Like, I think it's a worthwhile game that I think the fact that you can carry it around with you and play it outside a bar in Gen Con is the selling point of that game. I also don't think that I necessarily want to play it a whole lot more. Like, it has its moments and they're rare. The way that you can, like, expediently bring it out is great, but I would much rather pick between the two. I would pick The Thing. Fire away.
Good Lord.
Yeah, we're starting off pretty poor. All right, in the second one, we have Two Rooms and a Boom versus Detective Club.
Oh, my God.
Brilliant. These are both brilliant games. Two Rooms and a Boom is a game that can play like large groups of people. It's designed for like 10 people or more. Ideally, you split the players literally into two rooms. So like one half goes into one room and another half goes to the other room, and roles are distributed in a way where every player is secretly on either the red team or the blue team. At the end of the game, which involves people moving between the rooms at the end of the round, if the bomber is in the same room as the president, the red team wins, otherwise the blue team wins. There are a whole bunch of just fun, crazy roles that determine like whether you should be sharing information with other people or not, and like the risk for sharing that information with people. And it's a game about using your role to your advantage to sort of evaluate the risk of sending people between the rooms and being precious about who you share information with. This is a game that I feel does substantially well in a very niche space of like, what are games that support large player counts? I've played this a bunch of times at conventions. This is sort of like the go-to game I would normally do at a board game convention because it works so well in the environment of, I don't know everyone especially well, but I'm going to be able to play a game with 20 of you, and we're all going to understand this within a short space of time and have fun doing it. It's a really good icebreaker large group party game.
Detective Club is on a very specific end of the social deduction spectrum where the elements of it are extremely light and designed for people who don't particularly enjoy feeling on the spot or feeling that pressure that comes along with social deduction. So in Detective Club, you have beautiful artwork, Dixit style. Everyone at the table knows what the special word is, except one person, and they are flipping over beautiful artwork to try to convey, I'm in on the game. I know what the secret word is. And one player is having to sort of just play along and pretend like they know. And where the real social deduction comes into the game is that after everyone has two cards in front of them, they have to out loud defend the reason that they chose their cards. And there's sort of a negotiation round where everyone starts laughing at one player. Everyone sort of starts shouting like it has to be Mark or Neelan. Like, why the hell did you play a guppy? Like, that has nothing to do with the sky. This works fantastically well with non-gamers. I've seen my coworkers light up and love this style of game, both because the artwork is tremendously beautiful, but it also injects something they've never seen before, which is that first little twist of, oh, wow, like we're all in on this and we're all sort of snickering and the one person just doesn't know and is desperately trying to fit into the group. That is Detective Club.
For me, this is a choice between a game that I don't really like and a game that I wouldn't play because I would rather play other games. And so for me, I'm going to do the one that I would play, even though I would rather play other games ahead of it. So I'm going to, believe it or not, in this case, I'm leaning right now Detective Club.
Oh, thank goodness.
For me, I think that every game I've played of Two Rooms and a Boom has always felt like it was a coin flip at the end. It felt like no matter what happened, Like in the end, it was just like 50-50. We could win or we could lose.
I think that's a common complaint. I think we'll come back to Two Rooms in the Boom later because Detective Club was on my list and I like it more than Two Rooms in the Boom as well. So this is a fire away for Detective Club for me.
Oh, okay.
And sounds like from
Fire away.
Detective Club.
Let's come back to Detective Club. Hopefully never. All right. The next vote. On one side, we have a fake artist goes to New York. And on the other end of the table, we have Insider/Werewords. We have combined Insider and Werewords into one answer for Pub Meeple so as to not end the podcast in an argument. It's
Fake
Detective Club, but different.
Yeah, exactly. Fake Artist is the game that I was thinking about that I would much rather play ahead of Detective Club. It's got a very similar premise where everybody at the table but one player knows what you're drawing, and you go around adding one line to a drawing. So it's a shared drawing that goes around the table, and everybody adds one single line. You could put your pen down and draw a bunch of things, or you could draw one dot, but you place your pen down, draw what you can draw, and take your pen off, and that's all you're doing. And it goes around the table twice, and then you are trying to say, without saying what the thing is that you're drawing, you're trying to suss out whose lines make no sense. You know, without saying that we're drawing a banana, you're like wondering, like, why did Kellen draw a spiral there? And then he has to, again, without knowing that we're drawing a banana, defend it. Like, oh, I was drawing the tree, or again, he doesn't even know we're drawing a banana, so he can't even say that, but he would try to defend himself even though he doesn't know what the drawing is. So it's a game where, you know, there's a lot of shouting and laughing at the end and making fun of people's drawings and what they could have possibly done. And then, you know, the reveal where you say, oh, we were drawing a banana. And, you know, there's another part of the game where if the fake artist has been sussed out, if you accuse the right person, the fake artist can try to guess what the drawing is and win it there. So you want to draw something, but not be too clear about it, because if you're too clear about it, then the fake artist is going to win no matter what. Every single game of this that I've played, I've collected the drawings. And, you know, whenever I break the game out, I show players when I'm teaching the game, like how it sort of turns out. And that's just always like a funny bit at the end. I really, really like Fake Artists. It's one of my favorite games of this type.
Insider and Werewords is essentially 20 questions with a hidden traitor. You play a classic game of one person knowing an answer to a thing and everyone asking questions, and then you have to suss out, wait a minute, some people already know the answer to this question, and you're thinking about, we were talking about sports stadiums, and Mark asked a question about whether it was a mineral. Why the hell did he do that? Insider is a beautiful Oink Games production similar to A Fake Artist Goes to New York. Werewords is a more complicated, with more roles, werewolf-style version of it that pushes it into the werewolf universe. Neelan loves Werewords. I love Insider, and we don't talk about our differences anymore because we'd rather keep the podcast running. They are both very, very good, very, very good social deduction game. And one that when you play for the first time, you literally halfway through the first game go, this is brilliant. How has this not existed until right now?
Right.
Like, boom, mind blown.
And yeah, the thing I was going to say, although Werewords is my preferred version, you don't need to go as far as Werewords to make the argument for this game. Like, Insider is 99% of the DNA of why this is an incredible experience. Like Kellen says, it's so intuitive. You can play this game with almost anyone and they will get it and have the same reaction of like, this is so smart. Why is this not a game that we've been playing with pen and paper for years?
For me, these games are very, 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 very close. I love both of them. I think for me, Fake Artist gets the edge because the novelty of the drawing. Word games are sort of more plentiful. Everybody's played word games. Drawing games are a little, you know, you've got the drawing at the end, which is just a nice little bow on top. So for me, Fake Artist edges out the Insider Werewords just a bit, but these are both fantastic games.
The promise of A Fake Artist to me is higher than Insider and Werewords. The premise of it. The problem for me with A Fake Artist, and I still love the game and own it and champion it everywhere, is that I feel like the middle ground, which is the rounds that exist between everyone knows what it is immediately and no one knows what the hell is going on. I feel like you very quickly fall down one of those two hills where it's like, oh, it's a banana. We all know it's a banana and the game's over. Or we've drawn a box with squiggle, 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 and no one knows what the it is. And I think that the rounds where it rolls down to the right middle ground, where some people know but some people don't, is rarer than I wish it was. And for that reason, I'm voting Insider, Werewords, lock it in, or fire the way.
Yeah, I think I love A Fake Artist, but I think that the learning curve on it is higher in a way where I find it hard to say that this is the right pick over it. It's Insider for me as well. Fire away.
Moving on. We got to speed up. Dun, 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 dun. All right, in one corner we have the Resistance / the Resistance Avalon,
I'll take this one.
which we have combined, and in the right we have Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Let's do the Resistance really quick. I've basically covered it earlier in the episode and talking about Quest. You're split into two teams. The evil people know who each other are. The good people don't. You pick a mission, you vote on it in a series of rounds, and then you either submit a success or fail. Avalon, my preferred version of this, gives this other element of hidden information where someone knows who all the evil people are, but can't give it away for fear of losing the game at the end if they get assassinated by the evil team. I love the Resistance. It's my favorite game, so go ahead.
Let me talk you out of it. Deception. Deception Murder in Hong Kong is a game where one player is the killer, and everybody has 5 cards that represent a method of murder weapon, and 5 cards that indicate a clue that was left behind. Everybody has their eyes closed, and then the murderer will select a method of murder and a clue left behind, and then the investigator, who is sort of like the game master, will give clues to try to lead the investigators to select the right murder weapon and clue left behind. But they are very, very restricted in terms of how they can give their clues. They basically draw a tile from a stack of tiles and try to get the investigators to select a murder weapon or a hint left behind based on these very sort of esoteric things like time of day. Even though time of day may have nothing to do, it may be very, very hard to indicate what the murder weapon was with time of day. The investigator sort of like left to this to have their clue.
I think that this is a harder one for me than you might think. The thing that I love in Deception is playing with the accomplice. A round of Deception feels less high stakes than a round of Resistance. It feels like a cooperative puzzle that you're all sort of trying to suss out together. And what I love about that, what I absolutely love about Deception, is that when there's an accomplice, and suddenly you're sitting there listening to Nealon sort of tell you why it's that or that. And you're like, okay, this makes sense. You know, Nealon's not picking himself, obviously. But then you realize, hey, wait a minute. There are 2 people here who are working together to try to, sort of in a co-op sense, convince me that I'm wrong about sort of this little like shared puzzle that we're doing. And that feels different than every other social deduction game. Deception is incredible. I love having it in my collection. It will never leave my collection. But, you cannot topple Big Daddy. Fire away the Resistance.
I didn't see that coming, frankly.
The one issue I have with Deception is that I think the pile of possible cards towards the end, like the cards that are left to be identified, like the potential selections, dwindles very, very quickly. So like very early on in the game, I think in most games of Deception, you have a general idea of who it might be or what the murder weapon might be. It gets there very, very quickly. And that always feels not great because I feel like it takes a lot of the steam out of it there. The Accomplice, I think, is a fantastic way to play it. Adds a lot to the game.
I agree. It's fake artist, right? Where it's like you want it to go to a place where it could be 4 people, but too often it ends up at like either this, most likely, or maybe that as like a backup.
Right.
Sure.
It too often like falls off that cliff too quickly.
Sure. I think that the fake artist thing with the accused getting a chance to guess mitigates that a little bit. But yeah, it has been an issue that I've had with Deception. But even with that issue, I'm going to vote for Deception. Fire away.
I mean, Deception is probably my second favorite social deduction game. So this was actually the one I expected Resistance to not come out on top of. But I've said this before, the purity of Resistance in terms of like how little it asks of you in terms of a rule set. Like, you know, there's a procedure to it and there's a little bit of a learning curve in getting everyone over that hump. But it's just a thing of simple beauty that I have returned to over and over again with different groups and the same groups for like hundreds of games, like literally hundreds of games. Fire away on the Resistance.
All right. In one corner, we have The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. And in the right corner, we have Spyfall. All right, I will introduce Spyfall as I submitted to the list. Spyfall is a game where everyone sits around a table with a list of 25 locations, and everyone knows that they're in a train station except one player. And the game is go around the table asking each other questions to figure out if you can figure out who doesn't know where you are. That doesn't make any sense thematically, but it's essentially like, hey, Nealon, you know, how do you feel where you are right now. And then Nealon has to indicate to the table that he's at a train station without giving away the fact that he's in fact at a train station. In addition to that, you can introduce jobs that everyone has. Nealon could be a damsel in distress on the train tracks, or Nealon could be the conductor of the train that is about to run over said damsel in distress on the tracks. And then you have to answer those questions in character. Spyfall is a niche social deduction game for people who are very good at them because you can screw up very quickly. If you think about deception as a game that takes away that pressure, that pain, Spyfall is completely on the other side of the spectrum, where when you are the spy in Spyfall, it is a oh crap moment. It is a immediately you just want to like smile or smirk. You can't do anything. Like everything you do is scrutinized. It is very good for a very specific type of audience that is not as universal as many of the other games that we have on this list.
I agree with that. I think Spyfall is very, very high pressure, but I'll say that I've had a lot of success playing Spyfall with people who are not board gamers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. Like where we just kept playing it over and over and over again. But it is, when you get that, when you find out that you're the spy, it is so intense. It is really, really high stress.
As someone that loves this genre, like I don't think anything brings me to like a crumpled up ball on the floor as much as being the spy in Spyfall. Like I can't handle it to the extent that I hesitate to say I don't like Spyfall because that's not strictly true. I don't like being the spy in Spyfall, and that hurts me a little bit. But yeah, I think I would give it the edge over the Thing just because I think it has a broad appeal and again is so simple. It is such a brilliantly simple premise that I think does have broad appeal. I've also played it in mixed groups of people that are non-gamers, and as long as I'm not the spy, I've enjoyed myself.
I'm shocked that you're going this way, Neil. I really thought you did not
He doesn't like the Thing.
No.
He's just-
I like the Thing. It's hard, right? Because
Neil,
like
we can get this in. We can get it moved up. What are you talking about?
I think
Let's
it's
do
gonna
it.
it's gonna be halfway up the list,
Spyfall.
but
You don't like Spyfall.
No, no.
Let's just move the thing up. Just to spite
Spyfall.
Kellen. Come on,
Lock it
Neil.
in.
You know
No,
you
but
want to do
that's
it.
not how this works.
Yes,
Do you
it
know how
is.
this
Come
game
on.
works?
He called it ridiculous. He called it disgusting that we voted for
I
Thing.
called it disgusting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, Neil, I'm appealing to you as a
no.
fellow BGB
There's nothing
anti-Kellen
about
person.
you, Mark.
Neil, come on. You don't like Spyfall. I don't.
that's
why
why
am
I'm
I
so
even?
torn on this. Like, is there
So-
a game
so
that
do
I
it.
dislike
Love
50% of the time? Is that a game I
Listen.
want to vote about over a game that I think works surprisingly well in a space that famously doesn't work well?
Right.
Think about
right.
the elegance.
Think about Kellen being upset of seeing
Don't
the
think
thing
about
up there.
I think it's the
Why,
Thing.
why are you only
the
thinking
thing
about
fire away.
I think
Say
it's
it.
the
What, you
Thing.
changed
No,
it?
I didn't change anything.
Neil,
Yes, you
say
did.
it.
You said I think it's Spyfall.
Oh God,
On the tape.
I don't know anymore. But I think
Follow your heart.
I
Neil.
think
Come
it's
on.
the Thing. I think it's the Thing. Fire away.
And say the two words. That's it. Yes.
It's over.
Love it. Number
All
one.
right,
it's
here
gonna be
we
number
go.
one game at the end of this.
I don't know
All right,
about
and-
that.
I cannot wait.
On the left side, we have Time Bomb / Don't Mess with Cthulhu, and on the right, we have Spyfall Returner. This is a tough one. These have both come in. I would be happy with either of them. I imagine that I probably will play Don't Mess with Cthulhu more often in the future than Spyfall, given the groups and the people and the places that we go. But the purity in me, the purist in me, wants to vote Spyfall. Fire away.
I agree. I just think, even though I had success playing Spyfall with non-gamers, it's a more pleasant experience in general playing Don't Mess with Cthulhu / Time Bomb. So I'm going to vote for Don't Mess with Cthulhu.
Yeah, I think it's Don't
Fire
Mess
away.
with Cthulhu for me as well. Fire away.
All right, moving on. On one corner, we have Returnee Detective Club, Mark's favorite game. And on the right corner, we have One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Mark?
One Night Ultimate Werewolf is taking the werewolf mafia style game and making it sort of a one round affair. People are dealt rolls face down, and then their rolls activate chronologically through the night. There's an app that has everybody close their eyes and do the rolls in order. And then at the end, you vote on who you think the werewolves are. And if a werewolf is killed, gets the plurality of votes, then the townsfolk win. And if the townsfolk end up killing another townsfolk, then the werewolves win. This is probably one of my most played games in my collection because whenever I introduce it to non-gamers, they almost without fail absolutely love it. I know that my gamer friends complain about the randomness, and I get that 100%. I get that like things are sort of just scrambled and who can tell at the end. And I think that randomness is a bigger problem with the expansions with like One Night Alien and One Night Superhero and all that other stuff. But I do...
Vampire,
exactly.
Daybreak,
There's
Mermen,
for all the randomness,
Atlantis.
there's a purity in One Night Werewolf that is lost in the other One Night games. I really, really enjoy One Night. I really, really enjoy introducing it to non-gamers. So I would vote One Night for sure. Far away.
It's a tough one for me, to be honest. One Night Ultimate Werewolf feels like a very good bag of tricks where I've seen them all too many times. I don't think the depth is there. I think I've played it maybe 40 or 50 times and had really good games. And 40 or 50 times doesn't take as long as you might think. You know, these games are 5 minutes or 10 minutes long. I don't have One Night Ultimate Werewolf anymore, and I would actively probably turn down a game of it with everyone but non-gamers.
I sort of agree with you there, yeah.
Detective Club, I really like. I think it's a very good distillation of Dixit, a very good distillation of A Fake Artist Goes to New York with even less pressure. I think it's smart and lovely, a great production. I think if we're voting on purely social deduction, I think you have to give it to One Night Ultimate Werewolf, but it's very close for me.
Oh man, that makes me the deciding vote. Oh no, wait. I guess it doesn't matter at this point, does it?
It doesn't matter. Stop talking.
Okay.
One Night Ultimate Werewolf, fire away. All right, on the left we have Insider and Werewords, and on the right we have Shadowhunters. Shadowhunters is one that I put in this list. Shadowhunters falls on the lowest brow for the common man. In this game, you are dealt a role at the beginning of the game. You are a shadow, you are a hunter, or you are a neutral. And then the game is figure out what team you're on and try to mercilessly murder everyone that is not on your team. At the beginning of the game, you have no knowledge. And so the way that you acquire knowledge is by knifing each other in the back, punching each other in the face, or asking each other fun questions. So one of the mechanisms is that you can sort of pass a card to someone and it says, if you're a hunter, you know, lift your left eyebrow. And then you sit there and look at them and see what they do. It's not that. It's more like if you're a hunter, lose 1 health, and then you lose 1 health, and then you sit there and you look at them and you go, oh my God, I know what that person is, but he doesn't know who I am, and I might flip-flop my roles. This is a quintessential social deduction game from like 10 years ago. It is a almost Munchkin-like punch, punch, fight, fight. Everyone's having a good time, but no one can take the results of what's happening very seriously. This, to me, feels like a next level social deduction game for a group that actually likes like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, because it's more, it's longer, it has ridiculous artwork. You're like, what the hell is this game? You open it, you're like, well, this is going to be crazy. I don't love it, but I'm not the biggest social deduction guy. Honestly, personally, Cal and Allen, I think it fits really nicely, and I think it has a place in more collections than it gets talked about to this day, which is why it is here on the list. You know, it's up against, you know, an Oink game, so it's going in the trash. But that is my appeal and defense of Shadowhunters.
I liked Shadowhunters a whole lot. I think at the time I played it, it had a novelty to it. It was at that perfect point that you're describing, Kellen, where I had come off of high of like other social deduction games, like, oh, this is interesting. This is like social deduction with a little bit of a board game going on. But I cooled on it very quickly just because of how dice reliant it is, in a way that kind of like almost neutered a lot of the social deduction elements for me. I still like Shadowhunters, but I don't think it holds a candle to Insider in this fight.
Yeah, I think I agree that Shadowhunters is a maligned game. It's sort of like forgotten, and I think there's something to it that warrants pulling back out and giving it a try. But Werewords / Insider is just too big of a heavy hitter, so I'm going to definitely vote for that.
All right, moving on. We've got Fake Artist Goes to New York in the left, and Returnee Shadowhunters. All right, think oink oink.
Yep. Fake
Lock
Artist.
it in.
Fake Artist.
Fake Artist Goes to New York. This is heating up, guys. All right, on the left, we have The Resistance, Avalon, and on the right, newcomer, Saboteur. Who the hell put Saboteur in this list?
I put Saboteur.
Defend yourself.
Do you not like Saboteur?
Defend yourself.
Saboteur is a game where you are collectively building a tunnel. You are all little dwarves, and you are building a tunnel from one side of the mine to the other to try to get to the gold. But among you are one or more saboteurs, but you don't know who they are. So as you're building the tunnel, the saboteurs are trying to lead you astray, lead you to the tunnels that don't have the gold as opposed to the tunnel that does have the gold. So you're all collectively building this tunnel, and all of a sudden, like, Nealon plays a card that is leading you away from the mine, and you're wondering, like, why he did that. And again, he can just claim, like, I just don't have the cards. Like, I would love to have a card that was a straight line from where we're going to the tunnel, but all my cards are right angles, and I'm doing the best I can, sort of thing. And what I like about Saboteur is there is a moment where it twists, because it also has a very take that aspect to it, where you can just straight up play a card on somebody else and just knock them out of the game temporarily until they fix whatever you've broken. So you can like break their axe until it's fixed. So there's a point in the game where, somebody's like shows they're a saboteur, and often when they do that, they're placing a your axe is broken card on you. And then you have to beg one of your non-saboteur friends to fix it. And there's still maybe a saboteur amongst you. Like one guy's a parent, but somebody else isn't. It's a game that is an older game, but again, this is another game where it's always been successful whenever I brought it out. There's a novelty in the like spatial building a path in the mine that you don't get in a lot of other social deduction games.
I think this also fits a little bit into the Shadowhunters realm, where the idea of being more about hidden teams and like trying to figure out who's on your team while you're playing the game. And there's a little bit of like, I'm going to do this thing and who's going to come along with me. There's a little bit of testing the waters while you figure that out, but it's in a more distilled, like simple tile laying game. Yeah, I think Saboteur is good.
There are multiple versions of Saboteur with more or less sort of modular teams, and this feels like a relic of a different era to me. I do think that concept is rife for new versions, and in fact, we've been sent new versions, not of Saboteur, but people taking that core system and trying to make a new version where going down the tunnel is fun, but a lot of the game is just like, I play a broken pickaxe on you and you go, okay, great. I have to skip my turn for 4 turns in a row.
That's true.
Didn't we have a good time? And here, compared to the Resistance, there is no contest. The Resistance, fire away.
Fire away.
Saboteur, fire away.
You liar.
No.
Deception, murder, and... What?
Saboteur is higher on my list than Resistance.
No, it's not.
It is, 100%.
What are you making things up?
I'm not making things up.
Spicy enough. We don't have to...
Ask the listener.
All right, on the left is Deception, murder in Hong Kong, and on the right is Saboteur. Are you going to talk about Saboteur right now?
No, I'm going to say Deception. I voted for Deception over. I voted for Deception
fire
over
away.
Resistance.
Deception.
Everyone knows you're a liar.
Fire away.
Deception, fire away.
All right. One Night Ultimate Werewolf on the left. The Thing, Outpost at 31 on the right. If you don't vote for One Night Ultimate Werewolf, you are a liar.
I am voting for One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
Great. Done. Nealon doesn't have to
say
say
anything.
On the left, Detective Club. And on the right, The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31.
Oh, my God.
It's obvious.
The Thing.
Detective Club. Detective Club. Detective Club.
This is actually
Just think
hard.
about the thing high on the
These
list.
are like neck and neck for me, honestly. Like, I think this is harder than you might think. I think that it is The Thing for me.
okay.
But I want to make this clear.
But you haven't fired
I'm going to say The Thing, fire away. But I want to make it clear. The Detective Club, I think, is excellent.
Nealon,
Excellent.
I have
And it's
never
like
loved you
right
more.
there.
Nealon, I've loved you a lot over the years, but I've never loved you more than this moment. Right
This
now.
moment?
Yes.
When we're separated by distance and you can't even feel his beating heart?
That's right.
And the
can feel
left,
it. I could.
Detective Club. On the right, Don't Mess with Cthulhu Time Bomb. For me, it is not even close. Detective Club, staying in my collection, fire away.
Detective
Cthulhu,
Club,
fire
for me.
away.
Fire away.
Yeah, you just want to say Cthulhu. All right, on the left, Two Rooms and a Boom, and on the right, Time Bomb / Don't Mess with Cthulhu. To me, this is not even close. Personally, Two Rooms and a Boom is pretending to be a game for 30 minutes, and then you flip a coin, and then a team wins. I get it as an icebreaker, and I agree when you have 12 or 15 people, you may want to do this. I think you'd be wrong. I think you'd be better served doing any number of numerous things, like talking to the person next to you and or drinking a beverage or eating the food. Don't Mess with Cthulhu Time Bomb, fire away for me.
Cthulhu, fire away. Because I love saying Cthulhu so much.
Yes. Two Rooms and a Boom on the left, Spyfall on the right.
For me, Spyfall, the 50-50 nature of Two Rooms and Boom, it just throws me off.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm running out of chances to defend Two Rooms and a Boom. It's not going to win this fight, but Two Rooms and a Boom, it's such a unique novel experience. It's a fire away for Two Rooms and a Boom for me. I don't think there's anything like it even in this space.
So what I will say is Two Rooms and a Boom is a fun name to say. Fire away, Spyfall. All right. The next up, we have the Resistance Avalon on the left and Insider and Werewords on the right. Here we come to the crux of our challenge, good sirs.
Okay, for me, the problem with the Resistance is I like my social deduction games like quick, and I like them more gut feeling than I like them being like, okay, he voted for this, and this means that, and like the mathematical side of it just feels dry to me, and it just kills it for me.
I agree, Mark.
Yeah.
And I actually worry that the more that I play the Resistance, the worse it will get. That there is a sweet spot between, I remember some of my early games in college of the Resistance where I formed the Triangle of Trust. And, you know, it was just about like literally like being like, no, guys, it's us. You know, we're in the triangle. And like that meant substantially more than someone running the statistics that, you know, I was 67% most likely to be the spy. And the closer or the tighter it gets to that meta or that sort of like Merlin must do this or Percival must do that, like I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the social side of this social deduction.
Some might say that the Outpost 31 is fun when you just play it and you don't worry about the who should play what, and it's all about having a fun experience.
No one would say that because no one's talking about the thing. Fire Away for the Resistance for me. You can't top it here, even with a beautiful Japanese game from Oink Games.
I just want to very quickly counter that point about the way that the meta, like you might say, devolves, in your opinion. Having played this game repeatedly with the same group of people, I was actually surprised to find that what is, I think, the most joyful thing about Resistance is you can explain the meta to people over and over again, and there will be people that will willfully defy it, right? And it becomes more about learning how those people play in conjunction with the meta. It's like a shared meta that goes above and beyond like rationality almost. And that changes with each group of people that you play it, because it's about learning how people play the Resistance is the meta for me.
I get that, but for me, a lot of the arguments with Resistance, I mean, the in-game arguments come down to like, you have to do this because I can prove to you that you should be doing this. And yeah, you can break the meta, you can break that, but it's like, it just for me, and it could be the people I'm playing with or whatever, because this is a game that's more geared toward gamers, so you're going to be playing with people who are like that naturally. It just gets too dry and too like, okay, you've proven your point, I'm going to be voting this way or that way.
Yeah, it's genuinely not been my experience that's ever been mathematically. Like, honestly, I find that more of a problem with One Night Werewolf than I find that with Resistance, where you've proven out the game, frankly. The Resistance Fire Away for me.
Insider for me, Fire Away.
Deception, Murder in Hong Kong on the left, and Insider and Werewords on the right. This is a tough one, friends, for me. A very, very tough one.
These are neck and neck on my list, but I give Insider Werewords the edge on this. Just because of the deception thing where I think it gets a little bit resolved or a little bit too clear too early. So I'm going to go for Insider Werewords Far Away.
Yeah, they're neck and neck on my list as well, but I think that the highs that I've had with Deception are so good. Like those reveals, like I do think that Deception sometimes has those moments where it's a little bit more clear cut than you want. But the advantage of those games is that they're over quickly, and then you play another one, and it generally goes better. I mean, Deception's fantastic. I think that especially with the addition of the clever accomplice, having someone that as the murderer you're sort of bouncing an idea off of, like especially when it comes to the eyes closed phase, we were saying like these are going to be the right picks, like finding the right things that are going to confuse them, and then like doubling down on that and finding credible ways to point people towards that information. I love Deception. It's my pick here. Fire away.
I actually think that it has to be Deception here for me. I think that Deception is a little bit of a diamond in the rough. I think that there could be more development work done to the big cards and more development work done on the smaller cards. But the highs of this rival the highs of a game of Resistance, which is as high as it gets, and the pressure feels lower. And I think that sweet spot makes it my like sort of long game of choice, whereas Insider and Werewords is a 15-minute trifle. It's a smaller thing. Deception is a little longer. I think I have to pick Deception, Fire Away. We are rounding around the back half. Saboteur on the left, Insider and Werewords on the right. Are you kidding me?
Insider, Fire Away.
Insider, Fire Away.
He didn't even let me finish. That's what the host does, is he gets to say the first thing. Saboteur on the left, Fake Artist Goes to New York on the right. Fake Artist Goes to New York, Fire Away.
Same,
Fake
Fire
Artist, Fire Away.
Saboteur on the left, Shadowhunters on the right. Come on, guys.
Saboteur.
It has to be Shadowhunters.
I think it's Saboteur.
Saboteur, Fire Away.
He hasn't said Fire Away.
Say it, Neil.
You want to play Anime Hunters, or you want to play Garden Gnomes Digging a Cave?
Garden Gnomes Digging in a Cave, Fire Away.
You're a liar. You made an alliance with him. The Resistance on one side, One Night Ultimate Werewolf on the right. It is not even close. The Resistance, Fire Away.
One Night, Fire Away.
The Resistance, Fire Away.
One Night Ultimate Werewolf or Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. Deception, Fire Away.
One Night, Fire Away.
Deception, Fire Away.
You're just trying to be difficult. Insider and Werewords on the left, One Night Ultimate Werewolf on the right. I do think that if I had not played One Night Ultimate Werewolf 700 million times,
that's true,
that I might choose it here, but it's still Insider Werewords, Fire Away.
I'm choosing One Night. But I get your argument 100%.
Yeah, and I guess also to that point, like I would still recommend people get One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Like even if I've cooled on it, like I had so many good games of it, but it's Werewords.
You meant Insider. Fake Artist Goes to New York on the left, and One Night Ultimate Werewolf on the right. This is a Oink Games. Fake Artist Goes to New York. Fire away for me, but I understand both sides.
Super close, but it's one night for me.
I think this is one night for me as well. Fire
Cool.
away.
Fake Artist Goes to New York on the left. The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. All right, Mark, let's hear your grand soliloquy.
My grand soliloquy is Fake Artist is a better game. Fire away. I'm
Great.
not a crazy person.
Thing.
Great. No.
Oh, wow.
Saboteur on the left. The Thing
I like
on
your
the right.
Moxie, though.
Oh, no.
What is it?
We've arrived at the bottom of the barrel. Saboteur on one side. The Thing, Infection at Outpost
The
31 on the
Thing.
right.
Thing it up. Thing it up.
I pick Saboteur Fire Away because it's shorter. You both picked
Yeah.
The Thing?
Yeah.
All right. Saboteur on the left, Detective Club on the right. Detective Club,
Detective
Fire
Club.
Away.
Saboteur.
Done. Saboteur on the left, Time Bomb, Don't Mess with Cthulhu on the right. Time Bomb, Fire Away.
Saboteur.
These feel, and what it,
Saboteur.
did you talk before you let me say? Okay, these are the same weight of game. And Time Bomb plays in 5 minutes, and everybody loves it. Or you could play as a stupid garden gnome. What do you want to say again?
Saboteur.
What-
Fire away.
Time Bomb and Cthulhu. Fire away.
Saboteur on the left, Spyfall on the right. Spyfall, Fire Away.
Saboteur. Fire away.
Oh, man.
I'm classic.
Are you
Classic.
a smart person?
Classic.
Are you? You're not classic.
I'm classic.
Spyfall's classic.
I think this is Spyfall.
Great. Done. Saboteur on the left, Two Rooms and a Boom on the right. Great. What am I
What
supposed
are
to
you
vote
gonna
for you?
Saboteur.
I want to be a garden gnome. Fire
Damn
away.
it, Kellen. 2 Rooms the Boom. Fire away.
Two Rooms and a Boom on the right, Shadowhunters on the left. All right, Mark.
Oh,
this is your
tough.
This is your
Shadowhunter.
tennis ball.
Shadowhunters.
Yeah,
Two Rooms and a
Shadowhunters,
Boom.
fire away. All right, it's over. We've
right.
made it to the end. Christina is thanking everything because it's gotten very hot in here, and our new doggo is
Panting.
sleeping.
Oh.
All right. In the last place position, number 12, we have the funnest social deduction game named to say Two Rooms and a Boom, where 15 people can hang out together and flip a coin after 30 minutes. Coming in at number 11, we have Shadowhunters, an older game that you may have trouble finding now. Coming in at number 10, we have a game where you can play as a garden gnome, Saboteur. Coming in at number 9, the social deduction game that makes Neelan sweat more than any social deduction game ever, Spyfall. Coming in at number 8, we like to say his name, Mr. Cthulhu and Friends, Time Bomb / Don't Mess with Cthulhu. Coming in at number 7, a game that Mark doesn't even think is a game, Detective Club. Coming in at number 6, a social deduction game where the best strategy is to not be evil and just be good the whole time. Wow, what fun we're having. The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. Coming in, no, that's the sound for Gone Sean Clever, you idiot. Coming in at number 5 is a Oink game classic, A Fake Artist Goes to New York, a lovely pink box. Coming in at number 4, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, where you can use an app and listen to a voice not as good as mine right now. Coming in at number 3, another Oink Games classic, Insider, that was copied and made into an inferior game, Neelan's favorite, Werewords. Coming in at number 2 is Deception: Murder in Hong Kong, a amazing, amazing social deduction game. And coming in at number 1, the granddaddy of them all, The Resistance, with the plot thickens. Don't get Avalon, because who cares about King
don't
Arthur?
Get the plot thickens. Get Avalon, get the Resistance with Hidden Agenda, get the assassination rules. This is the clear
Don't
winner,
listen to Neelan.
and rightfully
Who would you
on
rather
top.
listen to? That's going to do it for this episode of the Board Game Barrage podcast. You can find us on all forms of social media. You can argue with us on Discord at boardgamebarrage.com/Discord. What social deduction games did we miss? None of them. They're all here, all 12 of them. All 11 of them in the coin flip game, Two Rooms and a Boom. Thank you, as always, to Heart Society for their song, What's on Your Mind, Kid, from their album, Wake the Queens. That is going to do it. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Quarantine. We're all still friends here, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
There was some mistakes made by others talking, and that is it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So long. Fire away. Today, well, You're gonna have to do a lot of cutting. I
Okay.
apologize, Mark. I have had a day. You know what I mean?
Another rough one?
Tuesday is the worst day of any week, right?
That's true.
Because
I
on
think that's
Sunday
true.
night
That tracks.
you get good sleep,
Right.
and then on Monday you're like, okay, people haven't figured out all the emails they want to send.
Yeah.
But by Tuesday they've
Yeah.
figured that out.
Wednesday, you can sort of see the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
but
Thursday,
not on
Friday is all
Tuesday.
downhill. Tuesday is the worst.
It's the worst day of the week.
That's why we record on Tuesday.
Yeah, we save our best